15 number is also 15 and percent is also 15. Ji.
Sir, as a student, I'm also inclined to put this way that can you please discuss the role of the speaker within the gambit of this anti-defection laws?
Uh, Dr. Nandan, when we see this disqualification in the Constitution, Article 194 and 102 of the Constitution, then whatever ground is being given for the disqualification is being done by the President of India on the recommendations of the Election Commission. So this is the route that Election Commission plays a role and recommends to the President of India, and disqualification does take place. But when this law came in the form of amendment in the year 1985, then it is being subverted a little, and it says that the disqualification shall be done by the Speaker. Speaker is being designated as a quasi-judicial tribunal, and it has a judicial powers. It will decide the petition, and his decision would be final. It shall not be challenged before the courts. Also in the judicial review is also being debarred. No doubt, the whole anti-defection law, this amendment, was challenged before the constitutional bench of the Supreme Court in Kehata Holland versus Union of India, and Supreme Court delivered the judgment in the year 1992, whereby the whole anti-defection law was held to be valid, constitutional, barring one thing, and that thing was that the Speaker's decision is not final. Yes, Speaker can decide. He is tribunal. He has a power, but his decision shall not be final. It would be questioned before the Supreme Court and High Court in the judicial review, as judicial review is held to be the basic part of the Indian Constitution, but can take away the power of the courts of judicial review. So the Speaker enjoys much power, and when we see the shortcomings or any other thing in this law, then what we find is that speakers are being powerful here, and speaker decides the way it suits own ruling political party.
Right, sir. So, sir, after the role of speaker, then I think the role of judiciary also becomes very relevant here. So what is basically the role of judiciary, and how has the apex court, the Honorable Supreme Court of India, interpreted this law? Because
if we take few examples,
yes.
If we take few examples of speakers using power, then you can take up any case as and when it happened in any of the states. In our neighboring state, Haryana, there's a case, I think, in 2009 or 10, whenever the assembly election took place, or in Karnataka, or in Uttarakhand, elsewhere, wherever speaker takes a chance to decide. Now, this is a conclusion. Since last 35 years, this law has worked. Other conclusions has some doubts, but one conclusion is writing on the wall that the speakers has favored only their ruling party, because speaker belongs to ruling party, and come but may, under all circumstances, whatever ruling, whatever judicial power, whatever quasi-judicial powers he or she wants to give benefit, if he has some discretion, he has given benefit to the ruling alliance. Always this has happened. Now your question is regarding the intervention of the courts, Supreme Court and the High Court in the ruling. In all cases, whatever being decided by the speaker, in all cases, the Supreme Court or High Court has taken the judicial review. It means it has a power. It was held in the Kehata Holland's case. So there is no problem in this, and the judicial review is always being taken. So judicial review is taken. See various type of judgment. It was Rajendra Maurya's judgment in 2005. In B.S. Yediyurappa's case, it was judgment in 2009. It was a judgment in Kuldeep Bishnoi's case in 2015. In all cases, these are landmark cases. in all cases, you see, I'm not sure, I can't conclude that what courts has done, but in all cases, judgment comes when either the term of the house is complete. If this is a case of Haryana, government was constituted in 2009. The case of defection was filed in 2009, and life of this Legislative Assembly Haryana was up to 2014. Case was decided in 15. Judicial review has taken place. Court said that whatever has taken place was wrong. Anti-defection law applies, and it was the disqualification of the members. But it was decided when the term of the house was over. Government enjoyed 5 years. It has happened in Uttar Pradesh also, in the Rajendra Prasad Maurya's case in 2005. Term of the assembly was over in 2003. Case was decided in 2005. Everywhere, court interferes sensibly and with self-restraint that this is political power. This is people's power. Ultimately, the government has to go back to the people, and they are answerable there. So, court has always, I guess, and I understand, my observation of the court is of the court has shown a lot of maturity on this issue, that we will not interfere unnecessarily. No doubt court interferes, but just to interfere the constitutional provisions, not entering into the politicking of the political parties, that who wins and who loses. Court has tried to be away from them, and therefore most of the time, court takes a stance which that the court no. You have seen in the case of Madhya Pradesh, you have seen in the case of Maharashtra, in the case of Rajasthan, court does not act proactively that they becomes to the fore to topple the government. No, it is happening. It is a part of the politics. So let it be the part of the politics. Court interprets only the constitutional provisions. Not very active judicial review has taken place in this. So court's role is very mature, very sensible, and very restrictive. That they are not very active in this arena.
Right, sir. So basically, how do we evaluate this conceptual issue then? That the fact that the legislature is unable to speak against his own mind and policy or principles of his party. And how do we see all these conceptual issues today? What's happening today? We all can see. We have today in our TV screens right now. We have the judgment just coming an hour ago. The Honorable High Court of Rajasthan government, and yesterday we had some views of Honorable Supreme Court also. So, sir, how do you evaluate this condition now?
A condition regarding the freedom of speech of members?
Yes, sir.
This conceptual conflict?
Yes, sir.
Yes, this is a question for the. This is a question like you are asking. That is always a question in the student's mind, in the jurist's mind, or academic mind. That we are boasting of the freedom of speech and expression everywhere. That we are a nation which celebrate our speaking, our expressions. But at the same time, we have anti-defection law, and anti-defection law says that MLAs who are being elected by the lakhs of people, members of the parliament who has been elected by the 5 to 6 lakh of the people, they will speak the language of their own ideology on which their political party is being based. So if they are elected, if they are representing, then their voice is restrictive. They can't speak. If they speak, they face the disqualification. This is a conceptual, conflict basically. This type of question has been taken in Kehata Holland's case. And you know that for the larger cause, small things, nothing is small, but when it's compared to what we are actually trying to achieve, we are trying to achieve the stability to the democratically elected government. What we are doing service to the Constitution. That Constitution says government should stay for 5 years. We are serving to the mandate of the people. It's the will of the people. People has elected a government for 5 years. So in between, if some personal issues come, personal vices come, personal benefit comes, or something personal comes, then let us sacrifice these personal things and personal freedom of speech and expression also, So what we are achieving constitutional goal of stability, of will of people, of stable government, of 5 year constitutional government. So we are achieving this. So Kiata Holland's case, Supreme Court has justified these things that this can be done. Another issue is here, as in the beginning I said, and I am very convinced on the issue that the elected representative should be committed to the cause of public. And here we see they are committed the cause of political party. The party which elects them, now they need to be loyal for next 5 years. They can't change it. They can't speak up their mind. If they have to speak their mind, then they have to leave the party. Leave the party means it fetches the disqualification. So in the larger interest of constitution, of democracy, of discipline among political parties, of house management and everything, what we have chosen, that let it be the convictions, the loyalty to the political party, because in India we understand that the political party contests the elections. Most of the time, that is the political party which wins the government and subsequently forms the government. So we understand that these political parties are manning the democracy in India. So let us be little bit of maturity in them, and because MLAs and their members are also now loyal to them.
Right. So, sir, that means we can see that yes, the will of the people, voice of the people, again forms the bedrock. And yes, when we say that constitution is for the people, by the people, so again it forms the bedrock then, sir. So one last question, as I also know that you had the chair established in Punjab University, the B.R. Ambedkar chair also. So you are the proud recipient of that chair here. So, sir, how do you see this law vis-a-vis the torch bearing by the framer of the constitution, our Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, sir?
He always wanted stability to the government, because he always wanted that the state should have some powers. State should have some powers for the downtrodden people, because in the difficult time, like the time we are sitting in the COVID-19 time we are sitting, we are locked down, everything is locked down, economy is being restricted, everything economic, all things are there. Dr. Ambedkar was always in favor that there should be a powerful state, not powerful, otherwise robust state economically, not powerful in political power, but state need to be a robust state. And these downtrodden people, the weaker people, in difficult time or in their own difficult time, people will always go to the state, and the state need to help. If state acquires power, the power is being acquired for the weaker sections of the society. So it is like, so government is stable, government is putting its energy, its policies towards the people, then it is fine. And the government is themselves, the people are fighting among themselves, and all energies, all resources are being diverted towards the management of their own MLAs. Then definitely Ambedkar's vision or Ambedkar's mission or Ambedkar's dreams cannot be achieved in such a democracy.
Right, sir, right. So, sir, any last thoughts on the controversy in Rajasthan?
Rajasthan controversy, I think rightly, the constitutional perspective, we see that the BIP is being issued, which is in controversy, because due to BIP, certain MLAs has been disqualified, or disqualification notice has been sent to them. So BIP, Dr. Nandan, BIP is a tool to regulate the proceeding in the House, legislative proceeding in the House.
Yes, sir.
So if this tool is to be applied for the anti-defection activities, which is a benchmark for this, if they violate this for the House proceeding, when the Speaker said that he has voting division, and then BIP is being violated, then there is no question. This is a ultimate tool within the House, but it cannot be applied outside the House. It can be official house of chief minister. It can be governor's residence. It can be any other official thing. It cannot be there in political science. It is being developed to manage the house itself. So it's a tool which is to be applied within the house, not beyond the house. And as far as the defection and stability is being concerned in this issue, similar issues we have seen in Madhya Pradesh. So we can now think about a higher thing in 91st Amendment. What we have done in this 91st Amendment, that number of ministries is being fixed. Ceiling is being done on ministries, so many posts cannot be given to them. So still we see in Madhya Pradesh and in Rajasthan too, they cannot become member once they are disqualified from their own political party, like Karnataka case. They cannot become in this house being elected for 5 years. So if they go to the people, win the election again, then they come back and they join the ministries on their re-election. So one step we can also go ahead now. This time has come when we say the rest of the life of the house, if the life of the Rajasthan house is up to December 2024, then up to 2024, these defected MLAs should not be able to even contest the elections, because it is the life of the house. Their loyalty should go with the house, their parties. We can go one step ahead, and the way we are going, this I think this time is not being far away, because now mass things are being taking place. It can be of many political reasons, but politics is otherwise sensational. But we cannot achieve sensations by sacrificing our own values and democracy and all that. So we can always go ahead with this thing, that during the life of the house they will remain disqualified. But law now is this only, that they can be disqualified, they can resign voluntarily, and they can go to the elections and then come back and again be designated as a minister. This is the law presently. मुझे आवाज नहीं आ रही नरेंद्र जी.
Yes, sir. So I think with this background, the House and the Parliament is supreme. They are above the voices of all, of the legislator, of the parties, right, sir? And with this, you threw some light on this anti-defection laws in light with the latest amendment also, and with the interpretation which the Apex Court has given time to time. I guess the law students would be fascinated by this, and because they are too curious to know about these laws, which at sometimes they do not study in detail during their law also, but yes, when they come to the political fields, or they witness that what's happening, how the governments are being toppled, or what is happening, it's really a very question or a food for thought, sir. So thank you so much, sir, for being today with us.
Welcome.
Thank you so
much. Welcome. Thank you.